Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the I-5 Corridors Traffic Report. Tyson Alger here, joined by Justin Myers. And Justin, screw it, it's spring, baby.
As they say, spring has sprung.
It has.
And there's actual like baseball and golf on TV. There is lawns to be mowed. I plan on doing that a little bit later today.
I was going to say, have you broken it out yet?
Busted it out this afternoon. It's going to happen this afternoon. So yeah, lawns are ready to be mowed. Pollen is about to descend upon us, and so all of the that's how we identify the transplants. Mm-hmm. Is the people that really get hit by the pollen. I have no what do they call it? Medical knowledge at all, but.
We might need to just clip that part to use for a whole bunch of future.
Okay, so when I was doing the radio show, I was one of the first people back in the studio from COVID. Mm-hmm. Like we were doing the show remote, and then like this was like early 21, and like I would come into the studio, and there were still like cubicles in the sales department looked exactly as they did in March of 2020.
Little time capsules.
It really was. And so like it was like what I thought was a running bit was that I'm not a doctor. You should not take any medical advice from me. Because at that time, there's a lot of doctors on the internet.
I was about to say there's a lot of doctors.
There's so many doctors on the internet. So it was like a running bit of I'm not a doctor. You should not take medical advice from me. And then I would, of course, dispense of probably bad medical advice.
I mean, you were a radio host, so I mean, that's like halfway to a doctor.
I mean,
it's like a PA.
Talking about something for a long time, right? That just makes you clearly qualified. But all that being said is I've always had like this theory. Like I have lived primarily in the Pacific Northwest my entire life. I have... knocking on this beautiful piece of wood right here. I've never gotten allergies. I don't get allergies. The pollen does not bother me. Now I do have friends.
You were raised in the pollen. You were born in it.
I am the bane.
Strengthened by it.
Of pollen. But I also do have friends who, without proper medical care, literally cannot see.
Right.
But I've always joked that like I've never left it, so I've have an immunity to it. But when you see, the Californians show up and the pollen hits them, that's how we know. That's how we know you're a transplant.
We're definitely in that tricky season because I drove down to Eugene yesterday at like 7 a.m. because the Ducks were having their pro day. And when I left here, it was a little cloudy. It was probably in the 40s. So I was like, I'm used to the routine. It's been crappy for the last 3 or 4 months. And so I wore a sweatshirt and I had a rain jacket over it. And then by the time we got out of the Moshovsky Center after Pro Day, you step outside and it was 75 degrees in Eugene.
Yeah.
And I had an interview with Drew Maringer after that. I'm sweating through my coats. It was just... I'm not prepared for this time of year. It's March when you talk about teams needing to be at their best. I wasn't at my best.
You were not at your best.
I wasn't at my best yesterday, Justin.
Speaking of March and being at your best, I want to hear the firsthand story, as I have heard through text messages of your time at the Big Ten tournament, and
just me and all my best friends.
Because I don't know if the listeners of this podcast appreciate our fun media stories as much as we like telling them.
I mean, we could just hang out outside the pod and occasionally talk about these, but we do this for you. We put our friendship on hold to make sure you guys get all the best stuff.
But like when you do this job enough and for enough years, you find yourself in situations where you literally want to just crawl into a hole. But then they become fun stories to tell on podcasts. And so I'm wondering, at the time, were you like, well, first off, set the stage.
Yeah, no,
set the stage for those that don't know.
So last week was the Big Ten men's basketball tournament. It was in Chicago. And this is the first year since the expanded Big Ten that they've expanded the field from, it used to be just the top 15 teams. And this year they included 16, 17, 18. 16, 17, and 8, or 15, 16, 17, and 18.
Yeah.
when they announced this rule, none of us thought like this is going to affect the Ducks, right? Like they're a good basketball program. Dana Altman's their coach. They have Nate Biddle and Jackson Shellstad.
Certainly a top 14 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, like at the very least, you know, they probably thought they'd be like an 8 or 9 seed. We'll see what happens. That's not how their basketball season went this year. I think they won 12 games this year. They were like 5-15 in Big Ten play. They ended up being the number 16 seed. Not a great time. Not a great season. So they go to Chicago. Everyone kind of acknowledges like this is the end of the road for them. Like they're even like the best Dana Altman teams would find trouble going through the Big Ten tournament and winning that whole thing. Turns out, Justin, Big Ten's a pretty good basketball conference.
Not too shabby, yeah.
So as we were going about our planning this year for Lookout and kind of like where are we going to travel, like the Big Ten was always kind of, yeah, like maybe we'll do that if there's a decent storyline. Well, the good storyline was out of the picture like by January, like when Nate Biddle missed a few games and Jackson Shellstad decided that his hand wasn't good enough to return. It's just like, okay, well that's going to be a non-story. Then I started talking to my boss a little bit, and we've been trying to figure out lanes where maybe we can zig a little bit when everybody else zags. And we learned that there wasn't a single member of Oregon media going to Chicago. So we're like, all right, let's do it. Let's, like, why not? You know, if it ends in a great ball of fire, at least we're there for the end. We're there for the crash. We can document that. And if somehow magic happens, we'll be there for that too. So they play on Tuesday at like 4 o'clock in Chicago. I took a 7 a.m. flight out here in Portland. I'm 36 years old, Justin, and I still feel a pretty big sense of self-accomplishment when I can fly somewhere by myself. And then I took the train from the airport to the United Center.
Oh, yeah.
And managed to get there all in one piece. I'm like, all right, this is going
Was that
great.
O'Hare?
It was O'Hare.
That's a long ways away from the United Center.
It wasn't a quick train. It wasn't a quick train.
So far away.
And also, I've come to realize that the United Center isn't in the most pleasant area of Chicago.
No, it's not like the charming neighborhood of Wrigley Field.
No.
Where they put the United Center.
No, this is where like you're coming here to have Michael put 50 on you, and then you might get stabbed leaving the place. So I get to the arena. Oregon's the first game of the day. They're playing Maryland, and the Ducks had already beat Maryland once this year. So maybe they get a win. Maryland's a 17 seed. I get to the arena probably about 2 hours before tip. I wasn't expecting many people there at that time because, again, it's the first game of the tournament. It's 2 bad teams playing. When I walked into the arena, I think I might have been like the 17th person in the entire United Center, like 2 hours before the game. Go check in. It's like, okay, we're at the Pac-12 tournament. Media seating was on the hardwood, basically like along the scores table. And there was a lot of media that went to these things, but they were able to fit them all in. You know, the Pac-12 problem solvers. Notorious
problem solvers, that Pac-12 conference.
Media seats for this were up in the NHL press box, which are, I had to get an oxygen tank and go to the very tippy top of the Raptors at the United Center, and I settle in there. There's not a single other soul in the press box. It's just me. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm here 2 hours early. Like, I've shown up for basketball games 15 minutes before. Like, well,
yeah.
Fine. So it's like an hour before now. There's a couple ushers that have like come in to like check in to make sure that there's a reason that they have the lights on in the press room. A couple fans are filtering in. At this point, I've seen probably 5-1 like Wei Lin, Nanjing Monkey Kings jerseys to Oregon Ducks jerseys. Mm-hmm. Like people traveled to see him, not so much the Ducks. Anyways, we get to tip, and in this entire arena, I'd say there's probably 500 people at this game. I'd say maybe 100 Oregon fans, and they're kind of clumped together behind the Oregon section.
Yeah, probably mostly family members.
100%. There was no like Oregon brass there. Like didn't see Rob Mullins, didn't see any like the big kind of prominent people that you see around football games. Kind of like you know how football games are. The sideline's like a who's who.
Yes.
It's like I want to be seen here. For this, you didn't want to be seen here. The only like notable person from Oregon that I could even like identify was like I could see Pat Kilkenny sitting about 4 rows behind Dana Altman, and he sat there with his arms crossed for the majority of the game, which makes sense because Oregon hit 3 baskets in the first half, scored 12 points. They were on pace for essentially their worst game ever. The fact that they ended up getting 60 points in that game, Justin, is I think we'll do an oral history on that second half at some point. But so it's just this ridiculous game. Oregon's playing the worst basketball I've ever seen a Dana Altman team play. There's nobody here to see it. I'm in the press box by myself, and I just keep looking down at the thousands and thousands and thousands of empty seats. So at the second half, I'm like, well, I might as well just like go get a better seat. So I pack up my laptop. I go down to like the 100 level, find a section where there's nobody there, and it's for like the last 5 minutes of the game. Get to about 2 minutes left. And then I see a Big Ten usher. She's walking up and down the aisles. She's occasionally talking on her radio. She's looking for something. She's trying to find something. She's trying to find someone. She's trying to find me. So she finally gets up to me. She looks at me, does one more check on the radio, puts it down, and is like, "You have to leave." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, media can't sit here. People without tickets for the section can't sit here." I was like, "There's 2 minutes left. I got to be down on the floor anyways after this, and there's nobody here." She's like, "Too bad." So I grabbed my stuff. I walked around the bowl and sat in like the exact same seat, but just on the opposite side.
Yeah. Figuring it would take as much time to get them figured out that was still you.
Waited for the 2 minutes to end. Walked down on the court. I'm allowed to be on the court now. It's post game. I make eye contact with her just so she knows. So the game's over. Oregon loses 70-60. Ducks season's over. And generally, one of the positives of going to these tournaments is throughout the year, we don't have like locker room access. If you want to talk to players after the game, you get 3 players at the exact same time at the podium. And it's not great for kind of just asking your questions, but also like just kind of like developing a little bit of rapport with these guys. The open locker room, which is required after every tournament game. Locker room's open for 30 minutes. You can go player to player, talk to them. It's generally like best case scenario as a reporter. It is not best case scenario after a disgusting end to a dismal season and you're the only person in the locker room. Like, doors open up. Will Patterson, Oregon's SID, is just like, "All right, Tyson, like, it's yours." And I walk in and it's just like 10 players, like 5 of them are buried in their phones, like 3 of them have their heads in their hands, and you kind of just have to like walk to each one and like, "Hey, Kwame, hey, you got a minute? Hey, man, like, tough season, tough game, but," and then you kind of do.
So was this like the media version of walking into a restaurant like 15 minutes before it closes? To where everyone in the restaurant looks at you, or everyone in the locker room looks at you and just goes, "As soon as this dude is done, we get to go home."
Yeah, essentially.
And every question you were asking was preventing them from probably getting some sort of pizza or whatever, and a flight home, and finally an end to this shitty season, but it's prolonged for every question by you.
And there were some people who just like took off their apron, threw it, and were like, "I'm quitting early." Like Jackson Shellstad was out of the locker room as soon as it opened. He asked one of the ushers like, "Where's the bus?" and made a beeline. But I talked to like Kwame, I talked to Nate Biddle in there, and my logic was, generally the open locker room is at the same time as the press conferences, and so it was going to be Dana, Kwame, and Nate at the press conference. I was like, I can get the transcript of that. I can watch the video. And I'm talking to these guys already in the locker room before they go do that. So I'm in the locker room. Nate, Kwame, and Dana get up to go to the presser. I'm in there for about probably another 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'll go catch the end of the press conference just to see if, like, they say anything that I missed. So I walked to the other end of the arena for the press conference. Maryland had just finished up, so Oregon hadn't started yet. So I walk in. The Maryland media clears out, and then there's not a single person in the press conference for when Dana and the players come out. So one of the Big Ten moderators comes to me and just gives me the mic, and he's like, "Buddy, I need you to ask some questions." And like, I'm not a front row with a press conference guy. I'm usually I don't sit in the back row, but I usually file into the middle somewhere.
Well, and for those that don't know, like, if you've never been a media member in a press conference, there are I don't want to say unwritten rules, but maybe some unwritten expectations that when you go to a press conference, there's always 1 to 2 members who just break the ice.
It's kind of like the MC. There's like an MC.
Yeah, it's like we know that win, lose, or draw in this press conference, so and so will likely grab the microphone first and ask usually a ridiculous question as something like, "What do you think?" So what do you think?
Yeah,
and it just kind of breaks the ice because I've been to press conferences with you. You are not that guy.
No,
you are like
generally,
me, who's
generally
like
I'm
sit in the back and maybe throw in a little.
Yeah, like I like to be a little bit of a fly on the wall. I know a lot of the basics are going to get asked and answered, and so sometimes I come in with like a garnish, if you will.
Yeah.
Like just a little like, that was intriguing. Tell me more. And,
yeah. Chicken was pretty good. How about a little lemon zest?
Yeah, so that
Maybe
was
some fresh cracked pepper.
So that wasn't the case for this, and I'm kind of going through like a little bit of what should I do here, because on one hand, everything I got in the locker room is exclusive. Like that's the perk of going into the locker room is you don't have all the television cameras that are just uploading this straight to YouTube, where all the other Oregon affiliates who really work really hard just scrape it and then post it and beat me. So I'm going like, I should just ask nothing and like keep this all for myself. But at the same time too, it's like, this is kind of streaming live and like everyone knows I'm the only reporter here. Like so kind of had to go through like even though I had just talked to these guys in the locker room too. And like Nate and Kwame were both giving me we already
did this again. If you were gone, we could go to the bus.
Exactly.
And yet you are still here.
But now these
now not only are you the last person at the restaurant, you're asking for the dessert menu.
And this is after like they need me to come review their restaurant, and this was after like they pretty womaned me and kicked me out of the bowl earlier. Like they didn't even have food for us. Like they at the Pac-12 they usually have like a dinner or like a buffet. Mm-hmm. For this they promised concession vouchers, but they didn't have them ready for the first game of the night
because nobody expected anyone to be showing up.
Exactly. Like who would be flying same day from Portland to come cover
the 16-17 game in the Big Ten tournament?
But they give me the mic, and I'm a performer, Justin. Like the lights are on me. It's March. Somebody has to show up. So I have to go through like the Nate end of a long career. Like, how are you feeling? Just kind of like the basics there. But it just sucked. But luckily, as we've talked about, I've been doing this long enough to know that like this sucks, but like this is good. Like, this is a good story. Because like so much of this feels robotic now, and you just go through the motions, and like kind of like you can even go to these big events, and it just feels like a day of work because like you're just kind of in your muscle memory of it. This whole thing was just funky, and like I felt like that I was having to like be sharp the whole time to like, but the whole time I was just taking away like this was different, this was weird. Like I'll remember this at the very least, and so. Get through that press conference. Dana just takes off. Like didn't even get like a little like nod. Like, hey, thanks for being the only media that came. Like we didn't even bring our own media staff here. Maybe you should have stayed home. But yeah, it was just man. It was just a bizarre end and scene to what I've grown accustomed to being like a generally pretty successful March for the Ducks and Altman. And so like I did think it was important to be there just to see like they're going to give him next year. Like they've kind of come around to that. But I do think that of all the rock bottoms I've seen for Oregon and like there's been a couple false ones. We were on this podcast a couple years ago talking about like low attendance and like, does Dana still, and then they made it to the NCAA tournament and they won a game. They do what they usually do. This was like the first time that they just showed like zero life at all towards the end of the season. And I do think that, so I believe Dana has 2 years left on his contract, but I really do think next year is kind of the like make or break. Like he's, I believe 6 wins away from 800. I don't think the school was going to get rid of him before he gets to that big fancy number that they can celebrate and be like, hey, this, he won most of these with our program. This is what we stand for. And then I think they can get serious after that. But like at my big conclusion from going to this game was like, here is a program that is in turmoil and at a turning point, and also here is a university that right now doesn't really want to see this. Like, and it was just like even at bad football games, we usually see the brass show up. Like maybe in the 4-8 season, Phil wasn't coming to every game, but like this was just. When Oregon basketball is really good, like I remember at the Pac-12 tournaments, it was a who's who of like Oregon would be there. Like you'd see all the it was an annual trip for the football coaches to come gamble in the casinos and then go watch winning basketball and just kind of like let some steam off and like have a good time. This one, it's just like you're flying out to Chicago where it was thunderstorms, then snow, then rain, and all these sorts of things. It's bad basketball. It's not a fun tournament environment either. In the Pac-12, the whole like block was like a party. Like they had the yard games and people drinking and just having fun. Like this just felt like going to a basketball medical clinic, and you got a terminal diagnosis and they just send you on.
You didn't even get your 2 free drink vouchers that were promised.
So
it's
it
like, at the mixer, we're going to give 2 drinks. You'll get a voucher. It's like, I didn't get my voucher. Yeah, don't.
So I like write my gamer there. I'm one of the last people to leave the stadium. And as I'm leaving, it's just like lightning, just pouring down rain. Didn't bring a rain jacket because when I flew out, it was supposed to be like 70 degrees and sunny. The Uber pickup spot for the United Center is like 4 blocks away. So yeah, it was just like a really fitting end as I got soaked leaving the arena. I had to film like a little like walk and talk video, and it was like out of a cartoon or a movie where like I stepped into a puddle that was like up to like my kneecap, and it was just like, God damn. Like, so yeah, like that was my my like 20-hour trip to Chicago. I was back the next day. Like nothing happened.
I mean, one last thing on like the Oregon basketball part of this, and you feel free to correct me if I'm missing a year, but like even on some of the bad or subpar injury-riddled Dana Altman years, there was still, I think, enough talent on the team, and the way that the Pac-12 was constructed, where you could still go like, you can make a run in this tournament. Like there was always sort of that little. Vegas was obviously a draw, but like there was always something about like, even if Oregon had underperformed expectations all years, like, hey, you just got to win 4 games.
Yeah. And
they still got 5-star talent on this team. All you got to do is just win 4 games. This felt really like the first time since year 2 of Dana Altman, where you're like, they have no chance. Like they're going to this tournament to literally go through the motions. They have no chance. They might beat Maryland. They did not. They might put a scare in Wisconsin because they've beaten them earlier this year. But other than that, like they have no chance of winning this tournament and stealing a bid and punching their ticket. Whereas like every other year in the Pac-12, well, and last year, because they were obviously a tournament caliber team last year, but in the Pac-12, there was still like a thought of, hey, it's just 4 games.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just get hot in Vegas. And I mean, who doesn't dream of getting hot in Vegas? And you could punch your ticket. Whereas this year, like you mentioned, like nobody's there because there was no reason to believe that there was ever a chance.
You had to win 6 games in 6 days. Oregon won 5 Big Ten conference games all season. They had to double their Big Ten win total against I left Chicago thinking like, who is this for in terms of like the expanded day? Because the game after Oregon's, it was Northwestern versus Penn State, I believe. Not a good basketball game. Northwestern did pull off an upset the next day. I think they beat. I forget who they beat, but then they got hammered the next day. And so by the time you got to the quarterfinals, the top 8 teams left were the top 8 seeds in the tournament. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It just again, it's not my money that they're wasting, and not. I guess it was technically my time, but just knock it back down to 15 teams. Like 18 teams is. You still got 2 weeks left in the NCAA tournament when there's 18 teams left.
Yeah, but Tyson, what are you going to put on a Tuesday afternoon on the Big Ten Network?
True.
If not Oregon, Maryland in the 16-17 game. Like, we can only go back and look at, Big Ten legends so many times. We are asking for empty arena. I mean, basketball.
Are they out of football reruns for all the new teams they added already? I mean, a lot of football games they could put on there. Yeah, it was just, it was a bummer, and I'm compartmentalizing this in the sense of like Oregon women are still doing really well. They're going to. I'm flying out to Austin tomorrow morning to their 8 seed. They're taking. They're playing in the Texas region. I think they'll win maybe their first game, and then they have to face the top seed Texas on Sunday if possible. I don't know how well that's going to go, but at least like it's part. They're in the discussion.
Yeah,
like it's,
and your seats are probably going to be on the floor this time.
I would hope so. I mean, like again. Me going glass half full. It was the NHL press box, so there's a bunch of like Chicago Blackhawks shit up there. And like I was just like, oh, cool, I like hockey.
So, again, maybe sticking with the same premise of these very loyal and considerate listeners and viewers of our podcast really love us talking about media experience. We've been lucky enough to cover. I've covered a national title game. You've covered a national title game. I've covered an NFC championship, multiple Rose Bowls. There's a Peach Bowl right baby. There.
Actually, I still need to send that to one of our listeners. I don't know if you remember this, but like 2 months ago, I was like, I'm keeping the orange one. If somebody wants the peach one, let me know. Someone did comment.
Somebody wants the peach one. I said it's to burn it.
I said it's in the mail. It's not in the mail yet.
Yeah, it's right there.
I haven't forgotten you.
So again, we both have been unbelievably lucky in this business because we've been able to cover some pretty good teams. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that people don't know is like, it doesn't really matter how good of a media member you are. If the team you're covering is good,
completely luck of the draw. Yeah.
You get to go to all the cool stuff. And if you are covering a team that stinks, you don't get to go. But, Rose Bowls, I've said for bowl games, the Rose Bowl, to me, covering it is the best.
Not even close.
But let me throw out this potential hot take. As you are going to Austin, you were at the Big Ten tournament. Portland at the Moda Center is going to be hosting the first and second rounds. Gonzaga is going to be in town. As for a media member, and we were both at the Final Four in 2017, first and second round NCAA tournament games are the best games to cover.
Oh,
over Rose Bowls, over national title games, over NFL playoff games, anything. First and second round of the NCAA tournament. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Dude, I just did too.
I know. Is for a media is like, I don't know how to compare it to anything else in the world. It's okay. Here's how I would compare it. You're going to Austin. Austin has some of the most famous barbecue ever.
I've heard.
It would not be a Michelin star restaurant or like the French Laundry, but it's might be better.
It's still Michelin to me, damn it.
Yeah. So it's like the Super Bowl or like the Rose Bowl, like that's fine. Like that's the fine dining. Like first and second round of the NCAA tournament as a media member is like that barbecue spot that you will stand in line for 2, 3, 4 hours to get that brisket because your seats are the best. It's 4 games in a day.
For 2 days, basically.
For 2 days, it's so awesome. It is the best event you could possibly cover.
From a basketball standpoint, you get to see like the full array because you get to see a 16-1, so you can, you're maybe there for like a crazy upset, but also you get to see like what the top end of the bracket looks like. You always get 1 or 2 like really close games. I love the various different fan bases that come out for these things too. I remember being in Spokane for the first 2 rounds. I want to say this was either 2015 or 16, and Hawaii had made the tournament. It was the last time they made the tournament before they made the tournament this year. And Hawaii had pulled off an upset. I forget who it was, but the entire arena was like Hawaiian fans with like their palms waving in the air. It was just like a cool environment. And like you get such like this like array of tastes from all these different schools in like one city. And the thing I've always loved about the first 2 rounds of it too is generally for the men's tournament, it's in smaller destinations. Like I just said, Spokane. The 2 days that I was in Spokane for the NCAA tournament are like some of my favorite memories like ever on the speed, not only from the basketball, that was the start of Oregon's run to, I believe, the Elite Eight that year. But when you get to the Sweet 16s and like above that, like generally the host areas are like Los Angeles or New York, you know, some of these bigger areas. When you're in Spokane, Washington, and all of these national news or like sports organizations are sending their reporters to Spokane, Washington, like I'll reference like the Washington Post, rest in peace, but like the Washington Post had like 3 guys come out to cover this tournament. I think Maryland was playing in it. And when you get to the bigger rounds, all these big wig reporters, they have cooler people to go hang out with in LA or you know, like in these big cities, they're better connected. But there's something about like having all this media be in Spokane, Washington, where like everyone's just kind of forced to hang out at the Davenport bar or go out together. And so like it's, I don't know. It's just kind of it feels like the first 2 rounds of basketball tournament are as pure of kind of just excitement. I feel like a lot of like the bullshit talking points of college athletics, especially today, get thrown out because it's just like, hey, we have steak in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. Like a couple weeks ago, we kind of talked about how like, I mean, it doesn't really feel like March Madness, and it was true when I said it. Then the brackets came out, you know, and all your buddies who have bracket challenges start hitting you up. And then Texas hits a shot last night, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this feels good. And this feels about right. And yeah, by the time the Final Four is around, and you'll see teams that maybe have, I don't know, players that are bought and paid for, which again, as an Oregon football fan, can't be mad at, but. We're recording this on a Wednesday. Like tomorrow, like the madness will begin, and it's gonna feel like it's supposed to feel.
Just another thing about those early rounds too is, you know, you just talked about there being 4 games at a site in a day, and it feels like it's usually 2 games and then like a break and then 2 games. But I always love I forget which location this was at, but Oregon was playing in it and UCLA was playing in it, and UCLA was the game after Oregon. It's like Dylan Brooks comes off the court after a big game, and I'm in the concourse kind of hallway, and it's just like Brooks is walking by Lonzo Ball, who's like getting ready to go lead you. It's just like all this kind of like ships passing in the night sort of thing, and it's just like everybody's here. There's this energy. I did feel like there was some like conference camaraderie there too, because just like, hey, like we've seen these guys play, like let's go see how they match up. And it's just pure fun, and I'm really going to miss that from the men's side. Like the women's tournament is great and it's gotten better. Like the one drawback of it is just at this point, because it's still growing, the first rounds are at basically the top seeds home arena, so it's not like kind of like that neutral court feeling where like everyone's at one place. It does, like if Oregon does win and they play on Sunday, that's going to be a very large road game for them. But yeah, it's just like
it's funny because like on the men's side, you do kind of get the opposite, which is kind of the best kept secret of March Madness, which is, if the top seed, now obviously it's the pod system, right? And for people that don't know, like Portland has 8 teams that are going to be playing 4 games on Thursday and then the 2 games on Saturday. You buy a ticket, you get 2 games. Right, you get the first session or the second session, and what happens is Gonzaga is playing in one of the sessions. Gonzaga is obviously what are they, a 3 seed, I think, somewhere around there. So they are Gonzaga can win the NCAA tournament this year. The Gonzaga fans are so close to Portland, they are going to fill up the arena in whatever session they are going to be playing in. If in the other game in that session there is an upset brewing, the entire arena goes for the underdog. And all of a sudden now you're a favorite in what is supposed to be a neutral site, and you're in a dogfight with a 12 seed, but now the arena's against you. And it's such a fun extra little wrinkle and variable. It's like obviously not that way on the women's side because the top seed is essentially getting a home game.
Team, yeah.
But you almost kind of are playing a road game if you're a top seed, because fans of the other teams you just pull for the underdog. Fans of the city who are just like, I'm going to the NCAA tournament, I want to see an upset. And unless you are a Gonzaga, or like, I remember Indiana was at Portland one time, and as we have learned, apparently Indiana fans have nothing to do, and there's a lot of them. They just travel everywhere.
We get it. You like your good sports teams.
Yeah, you have a ton of United miles, apparently.
You know, these football schools, they just have all the...
But it's such a fun, like, little extra variable in the arena of like, wait, we're a 3 seed. And everybody is against us, and it just kind of adds to that tension in the building.
You live here in Portland.
I do.
You will be here while the NCAA tournament is here. Do people know that Portland's hosting basketball? Because this is the first time Oregon has hosted these 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. I believe since, was it 2001 or 2002? Because I remember Gonzaga being there. I had like the best seat in the house. Like I had that media row like right behind the broadcaster. So every time they did the live shot to the broadcasters, it's just my big head in the middle, and I'd get texts from friends and stuff like, wave to me. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I remember for that one, it was like, we're just coming out of the pandemic. Portland was going through a tough time. Like I was taking like the Moda exit, and it felt like the city was just the morning of, like, trying to rapidly paint over the graffiti and stuff like that. And it was just a weird time for Portland. I think we can both say the city's in a little bit better of a place than it was 5 or 6 years ago. But I'm not going to lie, Justin, and this might just be because I've been covering a basketball team that I knew wasn't going to make the NCAA tournament. It was like a week ago when I was like, oh, shit, Portland's... And this might be because I'm a Eugene guy now. I don't do basketball in the corridor. I'm living that burbs lifestyle with the 2-hour commute every day. But yeah, like is Portland excited to host basketball this weekend? Are you going to be going? What's the vibe here?
I am not going to be going. Based off of like ticket availability, it feels like there's a buzz.
That might be the Gonzaga.
But aspect. I think it's a lot of like.
I went to that Oregon Gonzaga game back in, what was that, December? The exhibition. It was probably 9-1 Gonzaga.
Yeah, I think like the Gonzaga faithful is like descending upon Portland. So for that, there is, I think, going to be a lot of buzz around the arena and around the city.
Are Gonzaga fans in Portland the equivalent of Portlanders who wear Lakers jerseys? Because, there's a fair amount of like random Kobe stands in this city. Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of Gonzaga graduates in this city too that like when their teams come around, all of a sudden it's like, where'd that jersey come from?
Let's be honest, graduates.
That way, yeah.
Okay, and I say that as a proud Western Oregon, let's go Woofs. But yet, obviously, I'm an Oregon fan, right? I did not attend one class at the University of Oregon, yet I am a diehard Oregon fan. So I don't look down my nose or shame anybody, but Gonzaga has what, like 2,000 students, I think? Obviously, they have more, but not that many. But they certainly have a lot of fans. It kind of became like the cool, like when I was a kid, this is going to age me, but whatever. Like Georgetown basketball was like the cool team to like. UNLV kind of became the cool team to like. Whereas like, I think there was, and this still is like a little window of time where like, Gonzaga was like the cool team to like.
Is Gonzaga basketball the Oregon football equivalent? You're always in the discussion. Yeah. You've never won the game. A lot of random fans across the country have like, you're probably like their second favorite team. It's like your auxiliary team.
Like there's somebody in like Davenport, Iowa, who's like, man, I love the Zags.
Exactly.
Like, how?
Exactly.
Well, it's like because I watched them I was 12 when they made some run, and it was.
It's this non-blue blood that's been trying to knock on the door of being like a blue blood for. Yeah.
And you know who's really gonna love that? Oregon fans. our listening Oregon fans. Okay, while we're here talking media stories and tournament coverage and Gonzaga, and you mentioned Pat Kilkenny, I'm going to bring it all together in one of my favorite Oregon basketball stories.
Hold on, let me put my feet up.
Yeah, put your feet up real quick. You got to tell
Uncle Justin's telling us.
You got to tell the story where you covered a game that nobody wanted you to cover. So I was working in Eugene with my good friend and terrific co-host Steve Tannen, who I know you.
Shout out, Steve. Good people.
You're still a consistent guest on his show.
When he lets me on, you know, I feel like I have to be on my P's and Q's. And
so Steve and I were coming up to Portland, and kind of like we both got credentialed, and it was like, this is gonna be great. The other thing that people have to understand is when there is a tournament game at what is supposed to be a neutral site, there is a school that is the host, and that host provides like coverage, like
they do the seating charts. They print out the stats. They give the quotes. They run the press conferences.
All of the support staff stuff, that's not done by the NCAA. That's done by the host school. I believe like when you were in Spokane, I think like Washington State was like the host school. So Oregon did not have a good basketball season that year. Oregon had fired Ernie Kent that season, and now Oregon is the host school for the first and second round in Portland. It was well documented that Pat Kilkenny is very good friends with Mark Few, the head coach at Gonzaga, and everybody just assumed Pat Kilkenny at this point in time was not the AD yet, but was like leading the charge to find Oregon's next basketball coach. I believe Mike Bellotti was still the AD.
But Kilkenny had won the nomination at the convention.
Exactly. Bellotti fire Ernie, and then he got out the door. Collected a pretty good paycheck out the door too. I need to
do a retrospective of like Bellotti's was it year or two.
Yeah,
a year as AD. Like I feel like that's one of the most yada-yada'd over periods in recent Oregon.
Yeah, he was transitioned out of being a head coach. I would love to know. We'll never know because I'm pretty sure nobody's going to say, like, I think it was like, you can be AD, but you're going to have to fire Ernie. And he did, and he was gone. And so Pat Kilkenny was kind of put in charge of finding the next basketball coach. And everybody just assumed that, well, Pat's going to hire Mark Few. Mark Few's from Crestwell, right? Mark Few's the best basketball coach on the West Coast, maybe one of the best in the country. Kilkenny is a season ticket holder for Gonzaga. That's how much he loves Mark Few. Like, they're old buddies. This is going to happen. And it makes sense for Few too, because there's no way he's going to be able to take that team, no matter how good they get, to the Sweet 16 or the exactly.
It's just small school. You can't do that there. So
with Oregon hosting, Pat Kilkenny is kind of sitting courtside at the administrative table, and Kilkenny is sitting where you are, right? I am about as close to Pat as I am to you in the media row. Steve Tannen is next to me is wearing a green pullover with a very bright Oregon O on it. And the Gonzaga bench is in front of us. Like, Steve and I were sat right behind Mark Few. So the entire game, I'm just sitting and watching Pat Kilkenny and Mark Few, and the entire arena knowing that, like, this guy wants this guy to coach at this school that is hosting this first and second round of it, and they're best friends, and he's a season ticket, and they couldn't make eye contact with each other, and it was tense, but also fascinating for me to just go like, are they going to acknowledge one another? Are they going to like give like a head bob? Mm-hmm. And just
They went like full like Cal Raleigh, Randy Rosarina.
It was exactly like that. Like I know, and then obviously ultimately Gonzaga, I think made a pretty good run. Mark Few got an extension. Pat Kilkenny would then hire Dana Altman, and 14, 15 years later, here we are. And also, you thought you got a lot of text messages. I was sitting next to Steve, who had the most recognizable logo behind Gonzaga's bench, as we were constantly getting text messages.
And this is probably in the era where each one of those text messages cost you like 15,
it was
20 cents
or maybe
so.
a dime. Yeah. We're roaming. We're in Rome.
And I know radio was big back then. I hope you guys were able to expense those.
It was, but it is fun. Like when you can sit, because we get a chance to see a lot of really cool things, and you get a chance to go like in locker rooms sometimes, and talk to coaches and everything. But like, usually in basketball arenas, like the press table is 200 level.
Yeah.
Then for like a glorious 4 days, you get to sit behind the bench and like actually get to hear everything. It's awesome.
Dude, I didn't think of this until the very last Oregon game of this year before the tournament. But, I've been watching Dana Altman on the Oregon sideline for the last 12 years. And he has publicly in press conferences and stuff just such a that shucks, like, a very even-keeled personality. But we've all seen him out on the court. He's it's like he's having like a hour and a half long conniption fit out there. It's stomping, it's clapping, it's yelling, it's screaming, bend your knees. I was at one game this year where who was it? I think Drew Carter tried to throw an alley-oop to another point guard. Ball went about 10 feet over the jumping guy's hand, and I saw Altman just like collapse onto the scorer's table. It was just like it just got more animated the worse the season got. And I'm sitting there that last game going like, how have I not ever just decided to like sit in those two rows behind Altman for a game once, just to like those fans have to have like the best experience, like the most like open look at like who this coach is, because like he doesn't hold back at all on those sidelines. So maybe next year. Okay, the one question that I didn't ask in the locker rooms that like kind of like devil on my shoulder popped up a little bit. So Oregon hits 3 of 22 shots in the first half, I think, and it's not crazy at these neutral site tournaments for a team to struggle finding the rim. Sometimes it's a different arena. Like I remember at the Final Four, they're playing in the football arena, and you have such a depth of field difference between where the hoop is and the back. And there was part of this game where like they're shooting and there's nobody behind them. I'm like, I wonder, are you guys just not used to like shooting with no crowd? And then I was like, well, actually, you've played the whole season at Matthew Knight Arena, and you're pretty used to having an empty backdrop.
If anything, sparse few fans behind. Yeah. No,
So
I just think it's the end of a really bad season, and if there was ever an appropriate way, it would be to just this Oregon team could not find the rim,
and like
or at least the bottom of the net.
I just feel bummed because it's harder for me this long into this career, getting older, getting busier, to be the sports fan that I once was. I didn't watch a lot of other college basketball this year. I haven't filled out my bracket yet, but it's going to take a whole lot of research just because it's like I've been watching bad basketball for most of the season. But for like something like the tournament, when Oregon's in it and they have a chance, like I feel like I'm much more educated and into, and just like have a desire to like know the outcomes of the whole rest of the tournament. And I'm still going to enjoy this thing, but I just feel like a little like, like I'll watch the games but like it's just, I've been very spoiled to be like in the thick of the NCAA tournament for the last 10 years or so. And so Yeah, it's just a bummer. Basketball's fun around here. Like no matter how much they try to tell us that football is the straw that stirs the drink, like we all know that. We can see the stats on our site when you write a football story versus a basketball story. We know this comes second fiddle, but the NCAA tournament's a lot more fun than the college football playoff. Like this 2 weeks concentrated dose of basketball, I think, is still one of the best sports things that we get. And it just sucks that here in Oregon we don't get to experience that quite like we usually do. As Kelly Graves said, the Ducks women are the only team from the state of Oregon in the basketball tournament.
Yeah,
it hasn't been a stellar year for hoops in the state.
And not only that, but like
the high school games were good though. I don't know if you saw what happened over at the Child Center in the state.
I did see. I saw between South Medford girls in the semis and then the way Tualatin ended up winning it. Yeah, the Bluff was on fire for a couple of days.
Actually, it was on fire yesterday too because UP beat Oregon State in baseball. That game that UP's like, we're charging way more.
The one that cost like $87 to go to?
$87, and then UP beats Oregon State to snap their 9-game winning streak. So pilots are like, give us that coin.
You mentioned talking about Nate Biddle as like kind of the end of a career, right? And this was obviously not the best season for him. Now, who knows if he ends up getting like at some point he may get like what? Another 3 years?
3 years of eligibility.
Who knows? Why not? Just keep letting him play forever. But
they're going to bring the franchise tag to college basketball, where it's like, if we give this guy this every year, he can be indefinitely.
We joke. That's going to happen. Like, that is going to be a real thing. Like, there will be some sort of like, all right, one guy just gets to stay, and like, you can't like.
I'm trying to think of like who on the football side this would have been perfect for. Like pre-NIL too. So like these guys have to.
Okay. Oh, this is good.
It needs to be some guy who realizes that like, okay, like I'm really good here. I'm not going to be great in the NFL or NBA. So this is
well, I mean, there's one name. Obviously, it's Marcus.
Don't. We had hopes.
We did have hopes. That's the point of the franchise tag, right? He's a backup NFL quarterback. And that's great. Like, he's one of 75 people in the world that can do that. That's amazing. My backup quarterback takes are second to none in case, like, I pride myself on my backup quarterback takes, which is probably why I'm not media anymore.
Shouldn't your backup quarterback takes be second to one?
This is why you're still in media, and this is why I do a podcast with you. But you talk about like backup quarterbacks, like this guy stinks. He's a backup. It's like there are maybe 75 people in a world of 7 billion that can do that. It's a better ratio than like brain surgeons, or
podcast hosts,
much more than podcast hosts. That being said. Do you think Marcus Mariota would have had a better 9 years?
Yes.
Doing what he did do, or be Oregon's all-time quarterback?
They either need to do a franchise tag or allow you to bring in one emeritus. So, like, when Marcus's NFL career is done, he can be like, you know what? I feel like I still have 2 years left in the bank. Instead of, like, going playing flag football like Tom Brady's doing. Like, I can come back and play for the Ducks for 2 more years.
Other than Marcus, who would be like?
I think for basketball, the best, and this wouldn't have worked because his ego was too big, and I think he thought that he was going to be like a great NBA player. But if you could have franchise tagged Joe Young for a few years, like.
That's the guy, exactly.
Just have a guy that's just like, okay, this guy can go get a bucket, and
he's going to be here for 9 years.
I mean, like, dude was like averaging like 60 points per game in China, and like wasn't getting an NBA snap.
I know. So there will be probably some sort of franchise tag, like, hey, we can't have everybody playing college sports forever, but like, we just have this guy.
Yeah.
How's that sound? But it looks like Nate Biddle's career is going to be coming to an end. It's weird that he is in this era, because I will make the case that if he were playing and had his career 12, 14, 15 years ago, he's maybe one of the most beloved, most popular players in Oregon basketball history. but he's lost to the era with one, no real significant NCAA tournament run. What, they won the first round game a couple of times, but no real like Sweet 16 or Elite Eight run.
They won one Pac-12 tournament with him on the roster, but he was injured during that time.
Exactly.
So there's no Nate Biddle moment.
And in an era where there was a revolving door of players coming in and out. But I'm curious, like, when we're doing our podcast in 10 years and we're looking for something to talk about and we go, hey, remember Nate Biddle? And then we do a nice 20-minute soliloquy on, the Nate Biddle era. I wonder what it's going to be like.
I kind of wrote about this last week because I was trying to grapple too with like, what's this guy's legacy? Because he was in Eugene for 5 years. He's in the top 10 of, a whole bunch of different stat categories. But, you think of Dylan Brooks, you think of NCAA tournament or him hitting that dagger against UCLA or just like all the shit talk or the fact that everybody in the country hit him. You think of Tyler Dorsey, you think of Mr. March, you think of Peyton Pritchard, you think of him hitting that three against Seattle and
against
I own the city and the way that they won that Pac-12 tournament and he basically dragged them to the Sweet 16. Like Biddle is an unfortunate kind of casualty of a bad era of Oregon basketball. But like I think and I don't know how much of a saving grace this is for Biddle. Because, he wants to go to the NBA. Like, he'd probably love to be able to come back to Eugene and celebrate a championship with the team or see his name up in the rafters. But Oregon doesn't do that for some stupid reason. But, like, the one thing that I know he will get remembered as, and this is just after, like, listening to Altman talk about him all year, it's everything sucked this year, but Altman would always come back to, but then there's Nate. You got to have guys like Nate who want to fight through adversity or guys who were injured, but then they get back early and they want to be, like Altman could wax poetic about Biddle forever. And I love the development of that because kind of like Brooks before him or even like Pritchard, like Biddle came in a little big-headed. He was a 5-star. He was a 7-footer. He was a little bit stubborn, but I feel like Altman always connects with these guys that he kind of bashes heads with a little bit together, and then they get the time, and then they're kind of on the same path. And so, like, I know for a fact, like, if Altman's still around coaching 5 years from now, and the team's going through like a dry spell or something, and he's trying to do this, I'm just. We just got to get guys that want to come in here and work. I remember, Dylan Brooks was being here at 6 a.m. I remember Nate Biddle, like
So he becomes one of those names.
So Biddle is one of Altman's names, which has a certain level of respect around it. I don't know how much that's going to carry over into the longevity of Oregon fans looking back. Of, it's almost like. And this isn't a perfect one-to-one, but it's almost like the Kellen Clemens sort of thing. Like, boy, that guy was really good at Oregon. They didn't win shit. Like, and then Dennis Dixon came, and then they went to national championship games, and then it's just kind of like some of these guys that get lost to yesteryear a little bit. And, it's not like Biddle wasn't blocking six shots a game like a Chris Boucher was. He wasn't a high-flying dunker like Jordan Bell was. He wasn't this season all that athletic because he was dealing with two bum kind of ankles. And so I think if somebody wants to get cynical, they could go back and look at it and it's just like, oh, this was almost like a stat pattern on a bad team. That's not Nate Biddle though, but it's just I think his overall effectiveness and impact might get lost to time a little bit just because you didn't get, it's like, if you would have had healthy Jackson Shellstad to play with this year, I'm sure he probably would have been even better, or maybe they win some games. Or instead, it's just like, here's this guy that was from Oregon, was really good, had the bald spot.
Shout out Central Point.
Yeah.
It is interesting kind of being one of those names, right? And that's not a bad legacy.
No.
Of like, you are the guy that the basketball coach references in terms of like, boy, you guys remember Nate? Like, because wasn't there like that, I don't want to say famous or even infamous, but like I do remember that press conference where Dana Altman was like, man, we drag those guys out of the gym.
Right.
It's like, we weren't dragging guys out of the gym this year. Like, and so if you become one of those, like, you get to be like one of those names, and then like, and again, I would be a terrible professional sports GM. I'm terrible at taking college players and figuring out where their careers will ultimately end up. So I don't know where Nate Biddle ultimately ends up. Feels to me like G League or overseas. Feel like that's just the feel I get. Maybe he goes into the gym, develops the three, and he becomes one of those guys that stands in the corner of an NBA team for stands in the corner for the Toronto Raptors and just shoots threes, kind of like Boucher did. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool, but it feels like, also the legacy is like after he plays maybe a couple seasons in Europe and like he's back. It's like, oh, I got a weekend in Eugene. I'm gonna get the game, and then hopefully Don Essig's still the PA announcer, and he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Biddle," and then he gets the standing O at the game. Like, that's the legacy I've got.
Yeah. And
I feel like it's pretty good.
That's okay. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left.
Okay, yeah.
I have one golf story that I want to share with you real quick. So last week, the Oregon women's golf team is number 3 in the country. I've written a few stories over the years about how their head coach, Derek Radley, has built that program. They have a lot of international stars. It's a lot about kind of knowing the game outside of the country, making sure those players feel at home. And then also it does help that he does have the number 1 amateur in the world on his team in Kiara Romero, who is from California. But like I wanted to, it was after basketball, it's after football where media access has been a little bit dry. I was like, these guys like to have fun. Like let's pitch something. So I was like, hey, I want to do a Radley profile, but I would like to do the interview while we hit a bucket of balls together. Oregon agreed a little too quickly. They were just like, yes,
done.
Okay, be here Thursday at 2. Okay. So I get to the facility, Oregon's golf facility. It's called the Jake, and it's this new kind of private thing built on kind of the auxiliary of Emerald Valley Golf Club, south of Eugene. And it was right when like the private gates opened that I'm just going like, what the hell am I doing? Because it's just like private gates open, you go park in the parking lot, and they have this beautiful, it's like a $2.5 million facility that kind of looks like Top Golf on steroids.
Yep.
There's ranges and putt courses and these skills things, and all the Oregon golfers are out around like hitting and chipping and stuff. I get to the parking lot, Radley's there, and like at this point I'm just kind of hoping like maybe we can just do the interview. Like I don't need to embarrass myself in front of all these people. Like he probably forgot his clubs, and we park, and he's just like, hey, you got your sticks? And I was just like, yeah. He's like, good, I brought mine too. And he pulls his bag out of the truck, and it's got custom Oregon, it's nice clubs. As one would have, yeah. And I pull my bag out, which is sitting in front of you.
I've seen your bag, yeah.
It's about 7 different brands of irons in there. There's no driver. As I was pulling out,